Welcome, welcome all. This is Martin Salama, the architect of the Warriors Life Code, which of course, as you know, stands for Live Incredibly Full Every Day. And I am so excited to have with me today Melissa Van Oss. She is the author of 3 books around the seduction as a second language. And today, February 17th, 2022, Melissa is releasing book 3, which is called Awaken Your Aura of Seduction. This is so fantastic. You know, Melissa and I, we've gotten to know each other the last couple of months, but really, I'm so excited for you. Melissa, how are you today?
I'm amazing. How are you today?
Wonderful. I'm incredible, living incredibly full every day.
That's right. And launch day is even a prime example of that to its fullest, I think. So yeah, we're
100%.
rocketing right along.
Yep. So tell us about what this is all about and a bit how you got into studying the art of seduction, because that's like before that met you, I know the word, I know what it means to me, but you've taken it to a whole another level. So tell us about that.
Sure. So I'm one of those, I call myself kind of like one of those like intellectual kind of do-it-yourself kind of people. So I started reading just about the art of seduction and how the mind works, human nature, the erotic mind. And, you know, as we read, right, it goes one rabbit hole to another, to another, to another. And I just found the topic so interesting that, like you said, we all have our own interpretation or thought process or initial reaction when we hear the word seduction or certain words.
Right.
And I, of course, was no exception to that. I, would think, okay, this will help me get to ultimately, maybe getting a mate or, getting to the bedroom or whatever the case may be. But when I started peeling back the layers and diving into this concept and the principles behind it, I realized, oh, these are principles that are more universal and they're about human nature and understanding others. And so to me, that was really exciting because it put a new dynamic to it. And instead of just looking at it from a one-sided direction, I decided, okay, I'm going to take these things I'm reading about and try them out. Mm-hmm. So I just call them like my social experiments. So I would read about something and it said, okay, if this happens, this is your response, and this should be the outcome, right? And so I said, all right, let's test out this guy's, theories in the book. And sure enough, time and time again, the results were on alignment with what they should have been, quote unquote. So That's where I said, okay, this is universal. This is not just about bedroom stuff. So I started really dissecting it to the idea of and looking at seduction, the art of seduction, as more of a tool of persuasion. And if you think about it like that, more so, we're persuading people to try to do things all day long anyway, like, oh, honey, can you pick up your socks or put the dish in the dishwasher? Or, hey, boss, can I have a raise today? Or, entrepreneurs certainly, we're putting ourselves out there every day to meet people and connect and build collaboration. So when we can use this as a tool of persuasion, either towards ourselves, our product or service, or realize, almost more importantly, when others are using the same tactics, it can help us make more informed decisions as well.
Right. Fantastic. When you were saying all this, a couple of words came to mind. One was, I'll never forget, a bunch of years ago, somebody told me, oh, someone said you're manipulative. And I looked at him, I go, what? No, I'm persuasive. I'm good at what I do. I'm good at communicating what I'm thinking about. So that's what I thought of, is some people will take it the wrong way. And I feel that same way, and I like how you've taken the idea of seduction and turned it into persuasiveness. And then the other thing I was thinking about is that really seduction, persuasive, all we're doing all day is selling ourselves or selling something. It's a sale, always. Right. Because when you're having a conversation, even if it's with telling your child to go take a bath, right? You're selling them. You're selling
taking a bath.
Idea of taking a bath. If you're telling your wife, what are we having for dinner? What do you want? It's about, okay, fill me in so that I can do it right. It's all about that. So it's interesting how you've taken that and used it to say seduction is as a second language is fantastic. So I love it. I love what you're telling me here. And I have your book and I started reading it. Book two. I have book two. I have to get book one, and today I'll be ordering book three now that it's available to
Yes.
get it. Everybody go out there and get it. And there'll be a link here in the YouTube as well as here on the Facebook page where we're putting this as well. So people can link into it and find out more about Melissa and what you've got going on there. But Melissa, I'd love to hear more about your story, about your life, which brought you to what you're doing now.
Sure. So I think one of those, country mouse, city mouse stories. I'm actually from a really small town in the Midwest. We have one traffic light, if you blink, you miss it, kind of thing. More soybeans population than people. So I grew up, in an agricultural community down on the farm. I like to say a lot of times, very wholesome, very, like not seductive necessarily, like in this world or whatever, right? Not very glam, very, just salt of the earth, good, wholesome, values and 4-H and all that good stuff. So
Yeah.
it was very much, 4-H, Friday night lights in our town, with the concession stand in the air and that whole kind of thing. So it was playing in the dirt. And I actually remember one time that we were playing on my uncle's farm, because you can't just have one farm in the family. If you're living in the country, most everyone has a farm or something. So we were in my uncle's farm playing, and my family, they deliver bedding to like large stables in the area. And so they would have this excess pile of this sawdust kind of in behind my uncle's barn. And we just decided one day it would be a great idea that we wanted to carry our bike up through the barn and onto the flat roof of the barn and drive our bike off into the sawdust piles, like 40 feet off the air. And we were having a blast. We created a kid ladder system. It was like 8 kids. We were having the time of our life. Then we saw my uncle's big truck come down the road. And before we could all get down, he was getting us and be like, you calling your parents and going home. So, like we did little daredevil stuff, but we were, pretty harmless. But, I guess I've always been one, to say for some adventures. So when I decided after college where I was going to make my next moves, I went to Kent State, and I did outside sales for a lot of like Fortune 500 companies. Mm-hmm. And I decided to move. I was in Texas, in Houston, and I decided, where should I go next? Back to, where I'm from, or try something new. So that's how I ended up coming to the DC area. And that's when I really stumbled into this like self-study and this like desire for no other reason except for the knowledge. And I thought it was a cool concept about seduction. And more importantly, before even seduction started, it was all about like, how does the mind work? Why do you, Martin, do what you do? Like, why did you make this decision? And if you have this type of behavior, where did that come from? So I'm very curious by nature in that respect. So it all just sort of dovetailed into this whole ball of information that ultimately landed me to create couples workshops, and then work with couples, as a small entity to, give them ideas and tactics to help spice up, their love life, for example, if it has gone on autopilot, because it's not just, of course, intellectual. So I do intellectual and mindset and that kind of thing. But after you get to that point, right, where you have the aura of seduction, what do you use? How do you use it? So you can use it for your personal, or you use it to go out into the world to make an impact and be more memorable. So I sort of just started realizing when I started studying these principles, I'm like, oh, I finally understand why I did pretty good at that sales job that I had. Right. And I had always just chalked it up to, oh, your nice personality, and maybe you're kind of persuasive, like you were saying, or something. I didn't really give it much thought. But when I started studying the principles, I said, oh, this is why that worked on this particular client. And this is why this didn't work on the next person. So
Right.
all of these things led to the ultimate concept of, yes, seduction can be its own second language because it has its own ABC, the elementary, the middle school, and the graduate program,
Right.
mindset and development ladder going with it.
So interesting. Thank you so much for that. I love hearing about people's past and how you put that all together. So, in what ways has learning about the art of seduction impacted the various ways of your life? Because it obviously did, based on what you were saying here.
So for me, I think the most important area, or the thing that I noticed the most, was how it impacted my confidence level. And I think, with most endeavors that we try to undertake in our life, if we don't have the confidence in ourselves and the belief that we can get it done or whatever we're trying to go for, then we essentially it's like, you can try, but you're probably not going to hit the goal because you're just not fully, charged and ready to necessarily face obstacles that may come in your way because you're not, as high as you could possibly vibrate internally. So
Right.
for me, along the way, I also ended up, to test out my principles and ideas, I created an alter ego. And I ended up hosting sort of like, I got into this sort of like group of people that were couples that wanted to go on Saturday nights to the club and have fun with other couples. So it was a private event, like definitely not from down on the farm. And so
For sure.
I had to get out of my own way to say, I need to have confidence to do this thing that I don't I mean, like, I don't know, like, okay,
Yeah.
I'll try to help. And if it's terrible, I'm just going, I'm out, but
Right.
so the alter ego came into the equation because if we think about the idea of an alter ego is not afraid of people's opinions, criticisms, thoughts, like it's like impenetrable,
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
impenetrable fortress around you, right? Because
Yeah.
the alter ego are the sides that we all have within ourselves, but for those reasons, usually those are like the main reasons people don't bring out these various sides of ourselves. But I said, well, you know what? This is the perfect playground, seduction laboratory, if you will, for me to try this out. So the alter ego,
Exactly.
she had her own name, like people know her that don't know me, vice versa. Like she was just like coming up with these crazy avant-garde costumes and just like the life of the party. And sometimes, I'd have conversations with people and they'd be like, oh yeah, you said such and such, blah, blah. I'm like, that wasn't me. That was the alter ego, like I don't know where that came from. But of course, the alter ego is us, right? It ultimately,
Yeah.
we connect back to it and get empowered from that and motivated. So the alter ego boosted my confidence in a lot more ways than I even thought, because I was
Mm.
just kind of using it initially as like a little bit of a shield,
Sure.
to
Sure.
kind of
Sure.
like figure it out and keep myself kind of like, oh, if they don't like me, it's not me, it's the alter ego. But then it became this whole, this whole other persona. And I noticed that people would really almost like get confidence from my confidence, because I would see people come in and be very shy, and quiet. And by the end, they'd be like the life of the party, getting everything started, and they'd be like,
Wow.
oh yeah, like confidence, I think, is sort of like smiling. It can be contagious when
Yeah.
put in the
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
hands. So
Absolutely.
using the
100%.
so the confidence for me has impacted like every other area of my
Beautiful.
life, and
That's so
it
beautiful.
boiled into other, domains.
All right. So a couple of things I thought about while you were saying this, when you were speaking, was first thing is you often hear actors talk about how they have an alter ego and that how they are when they're not trying to promote themselves is a completely different person. You know, they put on a facade or a mask to the world as to who they are, as to who they want the world to project to who they are, but really within themselves, there's somebody different. And you were talking about confidence earlier and the idea of not doing things because you're not so confident. And it's interesting because it made me think of a concept that I talk about a lot with my clients, and it's something I've trademarked. is that people rationalize. And to me, rationalize is really two words. It's rational lies. You're lying to yourself that it's rational to not do something you know you should be doing, or to do something you know you shouldn't be doing, because it's okay. So you give yourself the permission to lie to yourself. And as a result, you're feeding your ego because you're not doing what you need to do, and you're not stepping into yourself, who you are. So those are the things I
Right.
thought about when you were speaking.
Yeah, and I think that's really true of people, is that we're always in our brain is very helpful, right? And just
Yeah,
going along for the ride that we feed it. So when we do that, it's true. And honestly, when we're not being authentic and true to ourselves and others, then you really don't get the best benefit of everything, because you're not going to attract the people, situations, and circumstance that you need to fulfill whatever your destiny or purpose is, you know?
exactly right.
Um, and
Exactly
then
right.
when you were talking about the actors, I've heard this, before actually. I hadn't thought about it until someone else, like you mentioned, like David Bowie and all these people with their alter egos. And
Yeah,
I
he
think
was
it's
the king.
interesting. Bowie, right? Yeah. So I think it's interesting that there's also two perceptions of alter ego. Like you're saying, with actors and artists, a lot of times they'll use the alter ego as their vehicle so that they
Right.
can take their own personality away, and that's the mechanism for them to perform. My version is kind of like incorporating a little of that idea of who they are to perform and create this other entity, but actually internalizing it and using it to fulfill and be your total self, as
Right.
opposed to
Right. I
putting the
get it.
mask on.
I
You're
get it.
opening
Right.
it up there.
I love it. I love it because it builds the confidence that you need, as you said earlier, so that you can step into who you really want to be. Who you were is usually based on what happened in your life in the past. That said, for example, for me, I grew up. I was the youngest of five children. I have four older sisters, and everybody always said to me, not my sisters, everybody, oh, you're lazy and immature. So I played into that because that's what everybody told me what I was.
Right.
It was interesting. I was on a mastermind about 6 months ago, and we were reading this book, and it said, so tell us some of the things that people have told about you that you believe about yourself. So I said, yeah, I'm a procrastinator. And the people on the mastermind turned to me and said, if you're a procrastinator, oh my God, because I'm
We
always the
all
first
are.
one to get everything done. And it's
Right.
because that's how I always perceived myself. So it's about changing the way you think about yourself, not worrying about what anybody else is thinking about, which is what you talked about. So it's unbelievable. So thank you for that. So I want to ask you, why did you call the book series Seduction as a Second Language?
So seduction as a second language, I think, incorporates this totalitarian idea that I am bringing to light, where it is, um, there's a foundation. We build from the foundation up to a certain point. I call it the hierarchy of seduction. And we start with, like I said before, it's all about mindset, confidence, and the mental game first. And I think if we master those ABCs of seduction, the hierarchy of seduction, then ultimately, like I said, you are able to have this skill set and this ability to know yourself internally as well as external, so that you can have the best possible communication and outcome with those around you. So when you learn a foreign language, right, you just don't jump in and start speaking Italian like perfectly. You need to learn the alphabet. You need to learn, like, here's how the writing of the words with the accents, what they mean, things like that. So as we go up the hierarchy of seduction, which I introduced in the second book, and then we round
Mm,
it out in this third book that's coming out today, it's all about these principles that we can utilize so that we can, again, make it interpersonal or professional or business. For example, one of the ideas is building a triangle of desire.
mm,
Now, of course, in
mm.
the dating or relationship scenario, that makes sense, right? So if I'm trying to be attracted to other male or whomever individuals, I don't want to seem like no one else would want to be with me, right? I don't want to seem like no one else desires me, right? Because
Right.
then it's sort of like the kid who puts his
You're,
toy to the
you're
side and,
repelling the people.
yeah, you're repelling them by not having anyone. Or the kid who doesn't have a million toys, and the new friend comes over and plays with an old toy, and all of a sudden the old toy has value again, right? Because
Right.
someone else paid attention to it. So, like, so we can use that concept, for example, in business. A great way that a lot of people are using this desire mechanism is like through a wait list idea. So if you, for example, tell me, hey, Melissa, there's this great new subscription or mastermind or fill in the blank, that I have to be a part of, I know, value, like, and trust you. So I will say, okay, I'll sign up. Where do I go? Right? You send me the link. I go there. Oh no, I can't sign up. It's a wait list. Sign up now. Wait for it to come out. And you've done such a good job of telling me that I need this, right? Or you as a marketer has done such a great job of bringing me in through your copy, right? That I now have to sign up for the wait list. And if we nurture the desire through our nurture marketing on the back end, helping to fill what this need will be for the person, when it comes time to open the cart, people are signing up because they don't want to miss, and everyone else is desiring it at the same time. So it creates like that frenzy-ish kind of mindset. So marketers are very good at this creation of desire, but we can learn to do that in all of our daily kind of activities as well.
Right. Absolutely. That makes me think of the 80s. I'm an old guy. In the 80s, there was this jeans that came out that didn't come out. It was called Jordache jeans, right?
Jordache, yeah.
And I don't want to date you, or date how old you are, but but you couldn't get them. There were ads all over for them, but you couldn't get them. And everybody's like, I want Jordache. I want Jordache. And Jordache did this on purpose. And then 2, 3, 4 months, I don't know how much later, they released the jeans. And as soon as they hit, they were gone because it was the anticipation. So they seduced the audience with the anticipation. So what you're saying here plays in exactly.
Yeah, it's longing, anticipation. It creates excitement. So there's a thing called the erotic equation. That's what those are. Attraction plus obstacles, can't have them, equals excitement.
Fantastic. I love it. I'm learning so much here. I'm like, oh my God, I think I have to change my whole way of marketing.
I've heard this before from a few other people, or they'll get like, oh, that makes sense. They write something down. So that's perfect, because this is how we can bring our creativity to light through thinking about these things in a different lens, which is what seduction mindset is all about.
Exactly. So how can the typical person implement seduction as a second language into their daily life?
So I think the first thing is that we want to, we always start with our mindset. And the mindset of the Art of Seduction, or the seduction mindset, is one of openness. It's one of we go inward to understand ourselves first, right? Because if we know what makes us tick and all the little things that make us go on, then when we interact with other people, we can take ourselves out of the equation. So we can just be fully present in what's going on in that moment. So and I think in life in general, this is a great practice, but especially in, I think, seduction and seduction mindset principles, be in the moment is super important, because how often are people actually in the moment now, right? Versus all the distractions we have every time. And how much impact it has when you are spending time with someone, having a meeting with someone, doing anything with someone that has a pulse, and you are not being rude by distracting your attention and time away from the time you decided to spend with them. So I think when a lot of people can just kind of start that little baby seed in the ground, that starts to sprout a lot of little seedlings, just because most people are not that present and they're not that engaged, and they're all about, what am I going to say next? What's in it for me?
Exactly.
And when we take ourselves out, it opens us up to get those moments that we are seeking, whatever we're seeking at that time. And then with the mindset continuing, right? It's like you're looking at the world, I call like through rose-colored glasses, right? Or Wizard of Oz, black and white to Technicolor. So we all live right now, I think, in black and white and gray, most of us. And the media and all this stuff is not helping, right? Because it's very bad and doomy and gloomy. So when we can start to be people that are in Technicolor reality instead of the reality in the black and white that we are told to be in, again, it gives this fresh perspective, insight, perception of things start to shift. And then
Yeah.
that's when I say you start to look at the world now through seducer's eyes, as
Hmm.
everything could be an opportunity to make your input be impactful, empower others again,
Right.
and be in that moment with that interaction. So at the end of the day, no matter what you're doing, it's a win-win. And it's
Yep.
not the manipulation game and people doing what they don't want to do, because that's not,
Right. Right.
seduction is not
Exactly.
about that. Some people do, but I'm about wholesome. So
Right.
even
It's about,
seduction for me
oh,
is,
that's how I live my life, on trying to make sure whoever I'm with, we have a win-win relationship. I'm not looking for something from you so that you suffer and I gain. Or
right,
there are so many people out there, this is part of my training, where they're okay with I lose if you win. I'm
right,
okay with it. That's that first level of victim mode of saying, I don't care what happens. It's okay. You could beat me up because, that's just who I am.
right.
So it's all about the win-win. And one of the things that you were saying while you were talking, now I lost it. What was it? It'll come back to me. Oh, I remember, was that we were talking about being distracted and everything. And right before we started the recording, I said, oh, I better take my phone and put it on mute because I have some ADD. If it beeps, I'm looking.
I put mine on do not disturb and turn the ringer off,
Right,
because
right.
we're all the same way.
Yeah, it's
So
the way,
yeah,
it's the culture we've been brought up in.
yeah,
So I want to be present for that time for you. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that's something we all have to work on, is being present in the moment. So thank you for that. And now, so we're here today to talk about what's coming out today, book 3. So tell us the title, which I've already said, but say it again, and tell us more about what it is.
sure. So it's Awaken Your Aura of Seduction. And it's the completion of the final steps in the hierarchy of seduction I created.
Mhm.
And then it is the idea where we talk about how do we put these steps together. So we are kind of talking before, like the pieces and the parts that start. We talk about our mindset, we talk about our confidence. We start to have to shift our perspective and our perception, right? Because
Right.
usually when one goes, the other goes, right? So
Right.
we're kind of like going on this path of that. And so I basically I loosely based my hierarchy of needs on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which, of course, you start with shelter, water, whatever, and
Yeah,
go
yeah.
up. So
Yeah,
the
yeah.
top of his is self-actualize, peak performance. You're in flow, right? You're in the more non-local than local mindset, can
Mhm.
reach those higher levels of your brain waves. So for me, the top self-actualized level is that awakening of your aura of seduction, where you are now able to take all these pieces of the hierarchy that we've gone through in the two, well, 3 books total. And they're essentially like, and I know scientists will say you're not using this word right, that's fine, but it's kind of like it's part of your DNA at that point, right? Like, you have that it factor about you,
Right.
and people are drawn to you. You're memorable, you're charming to them, you're persuasive to them, you're able to get people to pick up your phone call. Like, to me, I think it says something when I haven't talked to someone, for example, for 5 years, and I call their number and they pick up on the first ring and say, "Hi, Mel, how's it going?" And
Right, right,
haven't
right.
missed a beat.
Absolutely. Right.
If you're making those type of impactful moments with people and you have this aura about you, then
Hmm.
it doesn't matter how long the time has left, right? You're still best friends with them, or you're still
Yeah,
good old friend,
absolutely.
business associates. So
Yeah.
when you're able to kind of have this essence about you, then you realize, okay, it's memorable, it's an aura, it's an it factor. It's not anything that has to do with beauty. It's not a beauty contest. That's the great thing why I say anyone
Right.
can master seduction, because
Right.
it's a mindset and it's an intellectual pursuit,
It's
and it's a
it's an
game of
energy. It's
psychology.
it's really an energy.
Energy. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the energy that you give off, right?
Exactly. So fantastic. So I love how you have it in a 3-book series, because as a coach, people come to me and they go, well, I want you to coach me, but how long, how fast will this happen? And I'm like, if you think you're going to get overnight results, then I'm going to tell you now, let's not coach. Let's not work,
Right.
because it doesn't work that way. It takes
No.
time, and it doesn't happen by overnight results. because if it does, it's not sustainable. And that's
Right.
what we
And
want.
you didn't get into the state that you are now by one day of doing what you did in your life, right? And
Exactly.
it's like people go to the gym and they expect, I'm going to work out really hard today. Yeah. And go home and take their shirt off and be like, am I ripped? You know, like
Right,
Arnold or
exactly.
whatever,
Right.
like the Terminator. No.
Exactly. So, for example, with what you're talking about, the three books, the first book is you're building a cake, you're making a cake. So in the first book, you're getting all of the ingredients together, right? You're collecting the ingredients and you're understanding what's needed to make the cake, all right, or to build or to change yourself. What's needed? You know, you're looking back at yourself. What have I used in the past? What do I need to change for myself, not for anybody else? Then comes the second book or the second stage, which is combining all the ingredients and getting them all to work together within yourself. And then the third book is baking it, finishing it, and putting the frosting on the cake, and now you have the complete package. How's that sound for a quick analogy?
I like that. And now I want to have some cake today for this party later.
Oh, you deserve it today.
Number one bestseller cake. That's what we're going to
So
have.
good. When you hit bestseller, which I know you will, you'll do that. So that was fantastic. So I want to know, what's your motivation for writing the book series and for opening up this dialogue about a topic that, you know, the word seduction can be taboo to people because they go, oh, it's all about sex. You know, for some people, they look at it that way.
Right. I think that's just, that's the main reason, is just to stop almost the knee-jerk reaction to the word or to the topic, and to essentially open up that dialogue. Because unfortunately, as we've seen and been in the world, right, there are people with anything that they learn, they can use it for good or they can use it for not so good.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people's either experience or perceptions or connotations towards seduction can lead either yes to only sex, right? Or pickup artists, the manipulations, or people wanting to be shady or icky, or you just get that gross factor. You know, like you want to shake it off, you know, when you're around those kind of people, right? You just go, I need to go take a shower after I be around you. But so I really want that to be like, okay, hold on, everyone, pause. Seduction is not a bad word. It's not a dirty word. It's not a bad, like, you know, anything. It's something that's actually very useful. It's very practical. And when we shift again, I'm always about shifting. You're going to hear me say certain words like yours over and over again. Shift the perspective and the perception of this. Then we can start to look at it through a new perception, a new lens. So we can start to see the value of the skill set and the principles and the connotations and ideas that open it up to so much more than just one thing. Right. And it's like, It's just like culinary. You were just talking about baking a cake. There's people who know how to bake a cake, like from a box. And there's people who know how to bake a cake from the scratch and make it like how it's supposed to taste. So we can use the same information and come up with different results, right? So seduction is no different. So we start to say, okay, there's another way of looking at it. There's another school you can go to if you want to learn how to bake beyond the box. And you can use it for, you know, a lot of other things.
Right. It's so funny when you said that, because I was one time by my sister-in-law and I was like, these are the greatest brownies I've ever eaten. And she turned to my wife and she goes, they're Dunkin' Heights.
Exactly. I used to make a cake for my one of my friend's birthday, and it was just from the box. And the first time they tasted it, they said it was the best cake they ever had. Like, how did I do it? I was like,
right. There was actually a Friends episode with cookies. I don't know if you're a Friends fan.
Yes.
And Phoebe's grandmother dies, and she loses the recipe for chocolate chip cookies, and they're trying to. So Monica, being a chef, is trying to figure it out, and finally she goes, "What was the name? You know, the Tool House."
Nestle Tool House.
Oh, Nestle Toll House.
She was like, "You mean this?" That was a classic. Because see, I'm a little Monica, because I would be, not that I'm a chef, because I'm an Instapot gourmet, self-proclaimed, but I could see that, she's probably a Virgo, probably that OCD kicking, be like, okay, I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna figure it out, and then being
Right.
so mad when the recipe is in your frigging cupboard.
Right, right. So I got to say, this has been so much fun having this and learning so much. I can't wait to now go back and get your first book. I already have your second book, and today order your third book. So how, other than me putting the links here in the Facebook and YouTube, how could people contact you?
So I think one of the best ways is you can join my Facebook group, which is Seduction as a Second Language Book Launch. And
Okay,
that's a open to the public group. And today, throughout the whole day, I'll be going on live and giving people like the updates, where we are, how we're going, make the announcement when we hit bestseller, all that. So and then I'm planning to keep the group going after the book launch, just for the concept, because I also do post mindset ideas, little thought provokers, did you knows,
fantastic. Yeah, yeah.
fun stuff like that to keep people engaged. And
Cool.
that's kind of the first step. Once we're in the group, then we can start to create the dialogue, and we can connect that way. And it's really super fun, super easy. And Seduction as a Second Language is easy to remember. I'm pretty sure that's a different one for you.
Okay, cool. So I'll put that also in the comments, a link to join the group, the Facebook group. On once this is posted, we'll put it in there as well, so it's there as well. But thank you so much for today. Any last thoughts? Any last things you want to say?
I would just say that if you've been thinking of giving your 2022 a new outlook, a new perspective, I definitely would recommend thinking about seduction as a second language as a vehicle to do that, to up level yourself, to elevate your mindset, to perhaps make you think about things in a new light that will spark some creativity and insight to whatever endeavors you might be looking to do in 2022. So I think if you grab it, it'll help inspire you and definitely make you think about things in a slightly different way, which at the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
Exactly. So thank you so much, Melissa Van Oss, for being here. I really enjoyed our time together. Thank you for spending this time with me. I'm so excited for you today to be launching this third book for you, and helping you with the launch, because you and I connected right away. We had that energy with each other right away, and I'm so happy to help you with this. And just to remember, this is Martin Salama, the architect of the Warrior's Life Coach. So go out there and live incredibly full every day.